In the heart of Russia's tumultuous political landscape, a pivotal moment unfolded in late February 2003. Mikhail Khodorkovsky, once the CEO of Yukos, the nation's oil behemoth, and its richest man, found himself seated at a high-stakes meeting with fellow oligarchs and none other than President Vladimir Putin. This was not just any meeting, it was a gathering that would ripple through the corridors of power. As the atmosphere thickened with tension, Khodorkovsky was invited to address a subject that had long plagued Russia: corruption. The air crackled with anticipation as he rose to speak. What transpired next would send shockwaves through the elite circles of Moscow. Instead of deflecting blame to the usual scapegoats, a distant customs officer or a corrupt provincial mayor, Khodorkovsky took a bold step. He leveled a startling accusation directly at the president himself. In a moment that would become iconic, he confronted Putin, accusing him of fostering corruption at the highest echelons of government. His words were not merely an indictment, they were a clarion call for accountability. He referenced a recent controversial oil deal, where a state-owned entity had purchased a small private firm for an inflated price, a transaction that suggested public funds were being siphoned to enrich the powerful few within the Kremlin. Khodorkovsky's courage in that moment was not just a challenge to the status quo, it was a testament to the complex interplay of power, wealth, and governance in Russia. This confrontation marked a critical juncture in the narrative of Russian oligarchy, setting the stage for a tumultuous fallout that would alter the course of his life and the political landscape of the nation. In the tumultuous landscape of Russian politics, the stakes couldn't be higher. When Mikhail Khodorkovsky, once heralded as Russia's richest man, found himself in the crosshairs of President Vladimir Putin, the repercussions were swift and severe. Putin, wielding his power with precision, turned the spotlight onto Yukos, Khodorkovsky's oil empire, and its alleged tax issues. This was no mere accusation. It was a calculated maneuver to shift the narrative, painting Khodorkovsky as a figure of corruption in a nation where the lines between business and politics were often blurred. As the months unfolded, the pressure mounted against Yukos and its charismatic leader. Investigations began to swirl like a storm, targeting various companies linked to Yukos. Allies who once stood strong beside Khodorkovsky began to fall, with arrests made and properties raided in a chilling display of state power. Friends and advisors, sensing the looming danger, urged Khodorkovsky to flee to escape Russia while he still had the chance. Yet, defiance marked his response, with Yukos engaged in high-stakes negotiations to sell a significant stake to ExxonMobil, an American oil giant. Khodorkovsky recognized the monumental implications of this deal. It was not just about business, it was about influence, about shifting the balance of power in one of the world's largest oil markets. Putin, acutely aware of the potential fallout, could not sit idly by. The battle lines were drawn, and the clash between Khodorkovsky and the Kremlin was about to unfold, a dramatic saga that would echo through the corridors of power and the pages of history. In the early hours of a crisp October morning in 2003, a private jet owned by Mikhail Khodorkovsky touches down in Novosibirsk, its engines humming softly as it prepares for a routine refueling. The tranquility of the moment is shattered when the control tower informs the pilots that a standard inspection is required. The aircraft is redirected to a secluded stand, where they are instructed to remain on standby. As the minutes tick by, 3 men clad in airport security uniforms step aboard the jet. They traverse the cockpit with an air of authority, their movements precise and deliberate. Suddenly, a heavy thud reverberates outside the cabin, a foreboding sound that signals the arrival of masked figures armed with automatic weapons. These are not just any operatives, they are Spetsnaz, the elite special forces of the FSB, Russia's security agency. Their mission is clear. They have come for Khodorkovsky. In a swift and calculated operation, he's escorted off the plane and transported to Moscow. There, he finds himself thrust into the stark reality of a courtroom, where the day's events unfold with chilling efficiency as the judge reads the charges: massive fraud, forgery, embezzlement, tax evasion, and contempt of court. Khodorkovsky can only manage a smile of disbelief. The prosecution claims that his alleged crimes have inflicted a staggering loss of over $1 billion on the Russian economy. In a decisive move, the court orders his detention while the investigation proceeds, marking the beginning of a tumultuous chapter in his life and in the annals of Russian history. In the shadows of a sprawling metropolis, a man is thrust into the depths of an overcrowded prisoner place, where the air is thick with despair and tuberculosis lurks in every corner. 8 months tick by, each one heavier than the last. Before the trial begins, inside the courtroom, a chilling scene unfolds. Khodorkovsky and his business partner, confined within a metal cage, their fates dangling precariously. As the gavel strikes, the facade of justice crumbles. Key witnesses vanish into obscurity, while the prosecution parades flawed and withheld evidence, casting a long shadow over the proceedings. A year slips by, and the verdict is pronounced convicted of grand fraud and tax evasion. Both men are sentenced to a staggering 9 years. In a world of concrete and steel, the fallout is swift and merciless. Yukos, their once thriving enterprise, is besieged by exorbitant tax claims. The state, with a ruthless grip, seizes its assets, selling the lifeblood of its oil fields to the looming giant, Rosneft. But the story doesn't end there. Khodorkovsky is whisked away to a remote penal colony in the desolate north, where isolation reigns supreme. Surveillance tightens its noose, and the outside world fades into a distant memory. What secrets lie within these walls? What will become of a man trapped in a web of political intrigue and betrayal? The mystery deepens as the clock ticks on. In the shadowy corridors of power, the year is 2007, and whispers of betrayal echo as new charges emerge. Just as he approaches the light of parole, the clock ticks ominously, and 2 years later, a new sentence lands with a heavy thud. 14 years behind bars. Once a titan of industry, negotiating a staggering $15 billion deal with a global oil conglomerate, he now finds himself stripped of fortune, reputation, and freedom. As fresh allegations loom like dark clouds overhead, the prospects of release seem all but extinguished. Yet, in an unexpected twist, the year 2013 brings a flicker of hope. After his annual end-of-year press conference, a revelation unfolds. Vladimir Putin, the enigmatic leader, announces the unthinkable. Khodorkovsky will be pardoned, with the world's gaze fixed on Russia as it prepares to host the Winter Olympics amidst mounting scrutiny over its human rights record. The Kremlin's decision to release several high-profile political prisoners, including Khodorkovsky, sends shockwaves through the political landscape. What secrets lie behind these walls? And what forces are at play in this intricate game of power and redemption? The mystery deepens as the story unfolds. As the frostbitten winds of December swept through the barren landscapes of Russia, a figure emerged from the shadows of captivity. Mikhail Khodorkovsky, after enduring over a decade in some of the country's most notorious labor camps, his release felt like a plot twist in a gripping tale of power and survival. Once an oligarch who thrived within the very system he would later denounce, Khodorkovsky's story intertwines ambition, betrayal, and a relentless quest for freedom. His release, shrouded in political intrigue, raised eyebrows both at home and abroad. Was it a gesture of goodwill, a calculated move to polish Russia's tarnished image on the global stage? As whispers of his past echoed through the halls of power, one thing became clear. Khodorkovsky was no longer just a businessman. He had become a symbol of resistance. Now living in exile, he continues to wield his influence, funding independent news outlets and rallying support for exiled opposition figures. Each act is a brushstroke in a larger canvas, depicting a struggle against political persecution. His voice resonates, a haunting reminder of the price of dissent in a world where silence is often safer. Yet, beneath the layers of his narrative, a lingering mystery. Will he ever return to his homeland? In his own poignant words, "Above all, the things I believe in are worth dying for. I think I've proved that." As the camera pans out, we are left to ponder the fate of a man who dared to challenge the status quo and the uncertain future of a nation still grappling with its own shadows.